let's move on. So now we shall look into a challenge, and this is called the Forest and Climate Change Challenge. And you are going to play different role. We'll share the mirror board where different groups will be, and possibly maybe the breakout rooms will have to be created. So let me see if I can do this directly. So okay, so the first point here is we shall have 4 groups. We have team A, team B, team C, and team D. And in this group, uh, you are to play, for example, team A is to play the role of politician, policy expert, policy makers. Team B, you are to play the role of corporate organizations, I mean banks, trade organizations, industry, businesses. And team C, you are to play the role of youth organization and non-government organization. And team C, you are to play the role of indigenous people and local authorities. I'll be coming into the room once a while, and possibly this will provide you with the opportunity to interact with one another. So the main question is very simple: to mitigate and adapt to climate change through sustainable forest management as a team of maybe A, B, C, whatever team you are. What are your suggestions to support in order to raise awareness, strengthen capacity, and create enabling opportunity? So imagine you're a politician. So what would be your thinking, since you've understood that CO2 emission is real, it's causing a lot of climate effects, climate change effects? What will be your role, and what are the suggestions you provide? But the first thing is you have to identify the problems. So possibly I would have to go back to the mirror board so that you can have a look at what we have to work on before we go into the breakout rooms. So, yeah. so, so here is the mirror board. So you have everything here. So some of it will be team A. So let me increase this. You all have access to work on it. So team A, team B, team C, and D. So try to identify some challenges that you've seen as a politician or as a corporate organization, then provide your suggestions. So these are the sticky notes that you can take to write. So you can always take these to write and put them here. So just write and put them here. So depending on how you want it. So yeah. So yeah. So possibly maybe Sabrina, maybe you can help me. Let me give you the host, right? You can help me create maybe 4 rooms. So let me just do this right away so that you can have the host. So
So I can do it randomly. I mean, there is no
uh,
preassigned.
yes, randomly. So, but I wouldn't want to share by everybody would go to one room, So it's
Yeah.
important maybe you do it in such a way that everybody,
Okay.
I mean, would be equally distributed. So. So yeah, so Natasha, you can also help share the link so that everybody can have access to it. Then the floor is open to
So we need
questions.
4 room because we
Forums,
have,
yeah,
yeah.
team A, B, C, D,
Mm.
team A, B, C, D. So click on the link, the mirror board, and possibly by the time you are distributed into the rooms, go into your room to discuss with your team. See yourself playing the role of all these guys. So if you're a politician, if you're a corporate organization, imagine what will be their role and try to provide the solutions. So youth organization, indigenous people, and local authorities. So you have the challenges that you've identified. So, so let me just do this. Yeah. So good to see everyone again. So while we know that team B are just typing their information, so what we can do now is we have a feedback from team A. So since we are also running out of time, so possibly one representative from team A, one representative from team B, C, and D. So give us 2 minutes from the challenges you were able to gather together, as well as the suggestions and why the suggestions. So do we have any representative from team A?
Sorry, who is going to present from team A?
Dr. Hai, sir, you can continue, please.
Thank you very much. Actually, I was not prepared to take over this role, but yes, it was a nice group work actually in our case, and Natasha took over the duty to put the notes in the Miro platform, and all other group members contributed a lot. However, the points are like challenges. If I can just highlight just few issues like higher responsibility of the politicians. So, and another point is that, sorry for the noise here.
No worries.
I think Natasha, could you please take over because there is a noise in my case.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. Hai. Okay, I just want to just highlight the main point that we have written here. The first challenge is, as a politician, to mitigate the climate change or the climate issues would be the high responsibility and enforcing the rules, strengthening the environmental democracy and acceptance from the public. So to mitigate those challenges, we have drafted here some suggestions as a politician could enforce, that is like to have an international agreements and tree plantation as a political agenda, adaptation of policies, and the green HRM policies could be implemented in the organizations, in the smaller organizations as well. And the more important thing is like enforcing the 3R policies, like reuse, recycle, and renovation. Thank you.
Thank you. So any question from other participants to the politicians? Okay. While Group B is trying to put their points together, so let's go to Group C, Team C. So a representative from Team C.
Maybe I can do that.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
We relatively late realized that we were supposed to write down the challenges as well. So we just came up with one that and I understood it in a way that what kind of challenges in sort of working on climate change and the general deforestation issue, the kind of challenges we would face in our group. And as we are a youth organization or sort of a non-governmental organization, I feel like a common problem could be that our voice is not being heard that much, and that we're not really being taken seriously. So that's a major thing. And generally, we came up with a couple of suggestions of how to fight the general issue that we were talking about. I can very quickly maybe go through them. One thing would, for example, be to actually offer governments to cooperate on climate or deforestation issues, since that way also people from civil society or people from the youth could actually be involved in these sort of problem-solving processes. And sort of the one example could be to create a joint commission that works on these issues, and NGOs could be involved in decision-making processes. Another general thing that NGOs could work on is to put pressure on governments to act on certain issues. So, for example, to create laws that protect certain territories that contain forests, or to just generally promote policies of sustainable tree farming. So, that trees are being cut down in a in a pace that, in a way that the general number of trees don't decrease, but rather maybe still increases, even though we are cutting some down for their use. The next thing was to inform the public about political decisions that regard deforestation. So, for example, if governments decide to cut down one part of a forest and people don't really know about it, then it could be also the role of an NGO to sort of promote publicity. Then we had, like promoting green city centers to just generally aware or promote the idea of in green environments and the general awareness of that having a big importance. One very practical thing is to create fundraisers to actually buy land that contains forests. That idea was inspired by the Wilderness International Initiative, which gathered money to buy several hectares of forests in the Amazon rainforest. And that way you can actually really easily protect land from being cut down, or the trees being cut down, if that is your own property. Generally, obviously, the most important thing is, I think, which is also, what is happening right now in this meeting, is to spread awareness and to educate people on climate change and the deforestation dilemma, since awareness and knowledge is a very big key point. We had another point from Rima saying that the education of farmers is very important, and to spread knowledge about laws regarding their work, and to spread awareness about sort of their role of farming in the big playfield of climate change. And one last thing, one practical thing again, is to sort of organize events where people come together and actually plant trees in certain areas. So, you kind of have more trees that grow. That's a short rundown for our suggestions.
Great, thank you. I think, yes, I'm seeing a lot of interesting suggestions. We moved from team A down to team C, and so let's go to team D. So thank you, team C, thank you. So team D. So who is representing team D?
I think I'll go.
Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So you have to speak louder.
Yeah, okay. So as Team D, we were the indigenous peoples and local authorities. So one challenge, I think it's just a general feel, before I break it down, is the failure to acknowledge the importance of indigenous communities and the local authorities in their cohesiveness and protection of natural resources, especially forests. So our first challenge was deforestation by farmers and breeders. This in the context of large-scale farmers and the breeders, the livestock breeders who do it on large scale, and then the privatization of sections of natural and indigenous forest land. You find that section of forest would be sold to private people, and then the indigenous community would not have access to it anymore. And then lack of cropland, forest land, and pasture. So due to this privatization, you find that you're only limited to probably sections of the land that you have access to, and then eviction from indigenous lands by private corporates. We have seen this in so many communities where you'd find that in the name of conservation, you're being thrown out from your indigenous land, and then lack of economic resources. So since that is the only livelihood that we've known coming from the natural resources, then we lack alternative means to make a life. Yeah, and then for the suggestions that we heard, the first one was implementing climate smart agriculture and natural forest landscapes. So this can be incorporated maybe from a grassroots level and from the community's perception and context going upwards. And then, like, for example, what works for them, what crops would they prefer, rather than what crops do you think we need? And then have policies to prevent external ownership of forest land. Have just policies to protect, in short, the forested land that especially has belonged to indigenous communities for years. And then have a participatory approach in decisions affecting indigenous people. So in the case that there are any decisions to be made in the lands that we own or the resources that we have as indigenous people, then we should be involved in the decision-making process. And then gazettements of indigenous practices, religious places, culture as protected natural or regional heritage. So this is because when we lose access to these lands and when these forests disappear, we just don't lose our livelihoods, but we lose our culture, we lose part of our religion and part of ourselves. So if they start, if there are policies to or acts to recognize what we do, then we are more protected. And then have advocacy programs to share indigenous knowledge. There are practices that have been there for ages, and correlation and coexistence. Indigenous people know how to coexist with nature unlike any other person. So it becomes very important if we can share this knowledge and if this knowledge can be widespread. And then have assisted natural ecosystem regeneration and ecosystem regeneration. So for the processes that for the places that have lost the aura of what used to be before. So if you can have systems to regenerate these places to their once former glory, and then have policies that place indigenous people as the protectors of forest lands. I think this goes back to what I've said before, like if you can acknowledge indigenous people as the protectors and preservers of forests, and then have local conventions between communities to help them manage the available natural resources. So we see that eventually the conflicts happen between communities. So if you can have programs where these local communities, the local authorities coming together and knowing how they can manage and take care of the natural resources, then it becomes better. And then having capacity building programs for environmental education. This can also go back to also indigenous knowledge and just help getting to know more about the protection of the environment. And then creating documentaries, of course, with consent from the local communities. Most times it's done sometimes it's done without asking for consent. So if it can be consensual, then creating documentaries to create a widespread knowledge about the importance of indigenous people and the local authorities in forest management. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was very comprehensive, Team D. Thank you. Fantastic suggestion. So let's go to Team B. So any representative? We need extra 10 minutes to finish. So
Yes.
yeah, please. Okay, good. Go ahead, please.
So Team B?
Adekunle, can you take over for us if you are done typing?
I think any member of the group can go ahead to do that. Pending the time, Adekunle will be able to switch on his microphone.
Okay, so the challenge with me is that I don't really have access to the Miro board, but I have an idea of the few things that we discussed in the group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for the challenges as corporate organizations, the challenges is we are looking at our profit or our money. So if we push in money, would the money serve the right purpose? And would the money be able to have returns in financial terms again? So those are the challenges that we have as corporate organizations. And the solutions that we have thought of is creating now some funding system that are there to support now the few ideas in climate change actions. So, for example, if a country would like to go into renewable energies, then we have a specific funding for that, and they will have to apply for it and submit their project proposal, and we will go through it and see if it is bankable enough. Then we will just use that funding system that we have already created to fund it. And we will also we also talked about networking, as we saw it in presentation. So networking, as corporate, we cannot go in individually. So we will collaborate at a national and international level, so that you know who is funding what and who at a time, so that you will not all go in and be funding the same area, whilst other areas are still void and no one is taking any action there. So for example, since we are talking forestry, so we thought about for countries or politicians, they need money to run their countries. And sometimes they might get some business ideas that they would like to implement where there's a forest. So they will have to go and destroy the forest so that they can plant an industry there. So if we have the money, a funding system down to tackle that, then they can come to us and with another business idea that is more climate friendly, and we would rather use that money to fund them, and in that way we are contributing to protecting and tackling the climate issues. So I think these are the few ideas that I can recall and that I can put on the table as Team B. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is, I really appreciate all the inputs from everyone. And I think, yes, I don't know, maybe we have one or two questions before we move on to quickly finish up the session. So do we have questions? Okay, in the absence of none, I will quickly share my screen, then we can. So the reason why we had this reflection and feedback is for us to see how different stakeholders play a key role in helping to manage forests to combat climate change. So you could see that it was not so easy for you to be in that role. And when you assumed the role, you were pouring out the ideas and you were putting it down. So these are some of the challenges that you face in the real life world when you are in any of all this position, in terms of maybe indigenous people or local authorities or youth organization or non-government organization, corporate bodies, policy makers or politicians. So this gives you an overview of what role you can play in climate advocacy. So coming to an end, I would employ Natasha to help us with this last short video. It's a very short one. It's important for us to know that the arts is the only option we have. We can run to planet Mars or Jupiter or Venus, and we need to protect, and we need to work together. It's a global action. It requires partnership, and it requires a lot of concerted effort. So all hands must be on deck, and this video will give you an overview from the Amazon deforestation and climate change.
Growing up in southern Brazil, my 5 sisters and I ate meat pretty much every day. It's just part of the culture here. Per capita, Brazilians are one of the top consumers of beef on the planet. Now, with the world's growing appetite for beef,
can you click on the decline so that we can see
everything. Increase its market share.
Thank you.
Partly by selling to the US, the world's biggest consumer of beef, and to China, where demand for beef has grown 25% in just 10 years. I understand the need to develop and grow, But does that have to come at the expense of the rainforest and the climate? The Amazon rainforest is about the same size as the continental United States. 1/5 of the world's fresh water runs through it. And it is home to more species of animals and plants than anywhere on Earth. The Amazon represents more than half of the remaining rainforests on the planet. This forest is so vast, but it is not indestructible. To find out what's at stake, I'm going to talk to one of Brazil's top climate scientists, Dr. Antonio Nobre. So Antonio, tell us a little bit about this amazing green carpet of heaven over here.
Well, most people don't have the opportunity to come on the top of the forest. If you see all this many shades of green that you see here, it's because biodiversity is the essence of this type of forest. Every species of trees has thousands of species of bugs. And also if you get a leaf of one of these species and you look to the microbes that is sitting on the top of leaf, you find millions of species, millions. And this is all below our radar screen, so to speak, because we don't realize it's invisible. And the trees are shooting water from the groundwater, up high in the sky. And this goes up into the atmosphere and releases the heat out there. And this radiates to space. And this is very important as a mechanism to cool the planet. They're like air conditioners, open air conditioning. That's what the forest is.
So in other words, if we lose all these trees, we're losing the air conditioning that cools off the whole planet.
Not only that.
Not only that.
No. The trees are soaking up carbon, the pollution that we produce, like carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Burning gasoline in our cars, you release carbon dioxide in the air, or burning coal. And the trees use carbon dioxide as a raw material.
So the trees are storing all this carbon. So if you come and cut it down and burn it out, does that mean that all that carbon goes up in the air?
Absolutely, yeah.
What would happen if this forest was gone?
When the forest is destroyed, climate changes, and then forest that's left is damaged as well. And then the forest grows drier and drier and eventually catch fire. So in the extreme, the whole area becomes a desert. And that's what is in store if we deforest. So we have to quit deforestation yesterday, not 2020 or 30. And there is no plan C. You have plan A. Plan A is business as usual. Keep plundering with all the resources and using as it were infinite. Plan B is what many people are attempting, changing the matrix of energy and using clean sources, stop eating too much meat, and replanting forests. If that doesn't work, then we go to plan C. What's plan C?
I have no idea.
Going to another planet.
No, but we can't.
We don't have another planet. So either we work with plan B or we're
done.
Yeah, we're done. And so
Well, why would
plan B has to work. It has to work.
People have to take accountability, because it can't just be like, I'm leaving over here and whatever happens over there,
It's
who
not my
cares?
problem.
It's not my problem, because it is everyone's problem.
Yeah, people should wake up. It's like when you are in the midst of an unfolding disaster, what do? You panic? No. You move it. Move. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. I think, so thank you, Natasha. Thank you for this. Yes, I think we already ran out of time for the e-visa session. So thank you to everyone for joining. And hopefully, maybe during the other set of sessions, because we'll be having this late also, so we can also have more discussion briefly. So thank you for the attention. And we might not be able to take much question, but at least you've learned one or two things, and hopefully it was insightful. And we continue to keep in touch. Then I think, I don't know, maybe I have one or two questions. Okay, no questions. Thank you. It's an opportunity to share this with everyone.